Howdy folks, Spencer here, and today I've got another batch of STO news to talk about, and we have finally had some confirmation on some brand new ships that are coming to the game, including a hangar pet that I talked about a couple weeks ago. Now there is a patch also coming out tomorrow on Thursday, but it's mostly just about the Halloween event and things I've already talked about, so let's just move on to the important topics. The first ship is the Norway, and the Norway is a ship that people have been asking for a very long time. So the Norway is going to be a 5-2 command strike wing escort. So we've got command and intel specialization seats on the ship. We have a commander tactical with command, a lieutenant commander science, a lieutenant universal with intel, a lieutenant with engineering, and a lieutenant with tactical. The 3 lieutenant seats are probably going to limit the overall potential of the ship, but the command and intel seats should offer fairly good performance for those of you wanting to set this up as a torpedo build or as an energy weapon build. In fact, I would have to say, given the 5-2 layout and the overall layout of the ship, this is going to work better for energy weapons than it would for torpedoes. A reminder, torpedo builds generally prefer to have 4 forward weapons and 3 to 4 aft because they run mines in all of the aft weapon slots. So I would recommend setting this up as an energy weapon build well before a torp build. Now I do have a clip from the stream that I would like to play regarding the bridge officer seating here.
Got a secondary intel slot.
Intel
Yeah.
seat, yeah.
Command
For all
intel.
your surgical strike needs.
Yeah. I want to
Just a reminder for the developers, surgical strikes can only be used at the lieutenant commander or higher levels. This Norway has a lieutenant intel seat and cannot run surgical strikes. Just wanted to make sure you guys knew that. This ship is going to be in the C store along with the Hiawatha, and they are going to be in a new bundle. I just should have mentioned that at the beginning, but I just wanted to mention that quickly. This is still a few weeks out. I don't know if we're even getting it this month. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not out until November. The reason they're showing it off so early is because of Fleet Week, and they wanted to talk about the models that they're putting into the game and the other ships that are getting some visual remasters here. So this is a C-Store ship, meaning it does have a fleet version. The C-Store version comes with 3-inch consoles, 3 science, and 4 tactical. And then the fleet version, I think, gains another science console. Fleffel's already got these on the sortable ship list here, which is really great. So yeah, the fleet version gets an extra science console. Okay, so back to the ship here. Its experimental weapon is the Molnir. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I'm probably butchering it. But this is very similar to the Voice of the Prophets experimental weapon. And this is doing an electrical AoE. So this is probably going to be a fairly solid experimental weapon if they have copied the Voice of the Prophets, because Voice of the Prophets was one of the better experimental weapons. The console is the Heavy Pulsed Tractor Array, and this has passives for bonus damage for tractor beam abilities and bonus EPG. And the clicking on it pulls a foe in, then pushes them into another foe. And if the target you use it on is a battleship or larger, then it will just deal damage. And the starship trait is constructive, destructive field interference. Tractor beam steals shields, and energy drain reduces resistance of the target. Probably not a trait that's going to see a ton of use, but we'll have to wait and see. The numbers on it didn't look that great, so I think the trait probably is just going to be a pass. Now, another important thing here is that this Norway class comes with the Valkyrie Fighters, and these are what I was talking about with the Typhon carrier a while back, and they've added them into the game through the Norway here, so let's take a look at them. These are the hangar pets I was talking about a couple weeks ago, and I foresee some of you liking them. They are going to be a fighter squadron with phaser pulse cannons and photon torpedoes, and they're going to have torpedo high yield 1 and spread 1. Now, this is where I do facepalm a little bit and I know the surgical strikes comment from them was already a bit of a facepalm moment right there, but I don't think they understand that the issues torp builds have. So they have set this Norway up with a very heavy, like torp bridge officer seating on it, and then they gave it a 5-2 weapon setup because I don't think they understand that torp builds, much prefer to have those extra aft weapon slots. Like if this was meant to be a torp boat, a 4-3 setup would have been better. And the other issue is that these Valkyrie Fighters are incompatible with the torpedo build. One of the reasons I don't recommend torp builds to a lot of people is because torp builds have a ton of issues. One of those issues is that if you have any other player or any pets in your run that are using torpedoes and they hit the same target that you're hitting, they can steal concentrate firepower procs from you and basically steal your high yields. So these new Valkyrie pets are designed to be torpedo spammers, and torpedo spamming pets are just not compatible with how the mechanics of a torpedo build would be. So I think for those of you that are just doing an energy weapon build on this or whatever, these pets will be perfectly fine. But when it comes to using the ship as a torp build or using these pets on any other ships that you would want to use as a torp build, they are going to lower your performance. So just keep that in mind. Like if you set this build up or this ship up with beam overload, cannon, scatter volley, you'll be fine to use the pets. But if you're going out and using like a heavy torp setup where you've got, the 4 torps forward, mines aft, you're going to have a really rough time if you use these pets. The developers, I don't think, understand the mechanics of how torpedo builds work, and if they did, the ship would have a different weapons configuration, and this pet would not be built like this. Or they would have just fixed concentrate firepower so torp boats don't have that issue. But overall, the Norway looks like a really good ship. I'm looking forward to it. It's a C-store ship. It's going to be in a bundle with the next ship we're going to talk about. So I do look forward to it. I just wish, with them doing things with command, I wish that they had a better understanding of how torp builds actually work so that they could design things that would make this, so that they would have a better idea of what a ship using command would be better off with. Then we have the Seneca command carrier. This is the Hiawatha, which will also include the Hiawatha skin. And as anyone that flies this ship is going to get comments that it looks like a penis, and they had quite a few comments about that on the stream also. And their response is simply that they didn't design it, that they are not the ones that originally came up with the ship. Not much they can do about it. So the Hiawatha has a 3-3 weapon setup. The bridge officer setup is a commander science with command, lieutenant commander engineering, lieutenant commander tactical, lieutenant universal with miracle worker, and an ensign science. 3 engine tac consoles, 4 science. And this has some new hangar pets also that are unlocked by purchasing the ship. So these are the support runabouts, and these have, I think I have a picture of them actually. They have a 360-degree phaser array, fore and aft. They have micro quantum torpedoes, and they have nanite payload torpedo. Nanite payload is a torpedo that fires at allies to heal them. So these are pets that can basically go around and heal you or your teammates. Could end up being useful. We'll have to wait and see. The ship is a 3-3, and because it is a science carrier, it does not have a secondary deflector. That is very important to keep in mind, as that will mean that this ship has lower performance potential than other command science ships in the game, like the Trailblazer. And the console on this is the non-baryonic buffer field. Passives on it for plus 66.5 all damage resistance rating versus hazards and dot effects, and plus 7.5 aux power setting. The clicky on this is an area of effect ally buff. Any incoming damage to you or up to 10 nearby allies will be converted to a damage over time. So it's basically taking any big hits that you would get and breaking those hits down into a dot, and it'll reduce the overall damage you take from those big hits in half. So it could potentially be useful on some tanking builds, but we're going to have to wait and see. And the trait is the Supplementary Coordination Network. Yes, I know this is blurry as hell. I'm going to get a comment about it, and it's because it's pulled from the stream. There's nothing I can do. When you launch Hanger Pets, 5% recharge reduction for captain abilities and command specialist bridge officer abilities, and they specified this can only happen while you're in combat. The trait's not that good. If you want captain ability cooldown reduction, just use Intelligence Agent Attaché, and that's a personal trait. This is a starship trait. Don't run it. This isn't going to be worth it. There's also skin remasters that are coming freely to people that own the Constitution class. There's one for the Excalibur, and then there's another for the Vesper, which is also for the Connie. So if you are someone that likes to fly the Connie around, you've got some more skins to mess around with. And the Sovereign material is going to be made free for everyone. And these skin remasters should be free if you own the Connie. So really, 2 new ships here, both going into the C-Store in a C-Store bundle. We don't have the release date yet. They were showing them early because of Fleet Week. So, like I said, the earliest I could even imagine would be the very end of October. I fully expect these to be a November release. But that's going to be it for this video. If you have any thoughts about these ships, any questions, feel free to ask down below. The Valdress is basically like a worse Delkina. In fact, let me make that comparison here while I'm here real quick. Let's look at comparisons for the Norway. And now let's also filter this to only show ships that have intel. So yeah, the Norway is basically a worse Delkina. The Delkina is actually a fairly good performer when it comes to energy weapons. I rated it as one of my, the top performers. And the ships are fairly comparable. The difference is the Delkina has probably got a better bridge officer layout, and it's going to have, a battle cloak, whereas the Norway doesn't. So the Norway isn't going to be as good as the Delkina, but it'll be something like comparable, like a budget option. Now, when it comes to the Hiawatha, let's see what that compares to. So I got to take this filter off and the weapons filter probably. Let's compare the Hiawatha to other ships that have a commander command and then another, like a miracle worker seat. And it's really not many. If we look at ships that are just from the C-Store, then you're going to have the Terran Trailblazer as the only competing option for command science ship. But the main thing about the Hiawatha is that it's not a science ship. It's a carrier. And in that case, the only command ship that is comparable to it that also has Miracle Worker is the Voth Rampart, which is a completely different ship. It's got a commander engineer. The Hiawatha is a commander science. But remember, the Hiawatha does not get a secondary deflector. And secondary deflectors add a lot of performance to a science build. And you are losing that on the Hiawatha to get those 2 hangar bays. Your 2 hangar bays are never going to match the damage potential of a secondary deflector. So the Hiawatha, for some people, it'll be a good ship. It's not a meta ship. Neither of these ships are. I think the bundle looks interesting, though. I'll pick it up. I think the ships, the models are good. And the Norway is close enough to the Delkina that it's a good substitute for the Delkina for me to use on some alt characters. So overall, I think it's a good bundle. We just have to wait and see what the pricing is on it. Given that they're going to be C-Store ships that have fleet versions, I'm expecting like a $50 bundle. And at that point, I'll definitely pick it up. But that's going to be it for me today. Thank you all for the continued support. More STO videos coming soon. And a reminder that there's going to be 2 STO streams this weekend. They're already scheduled, so if you want to check out the times for them, just head over to the main page for my channel, and you will see up at the top the 2 scheduled streams. That's going to be it for today. Thank you for watching. See you guys next time.